Well, round 21 is in the books, and I'll tell you what a round of footy it was. I don't even need to do an intro. I can basically just rinse and repeat because rounds 15 onward have been absolutely unbelievable. And round 21 delivered again. Let's start in the Harbour City. Paging the Sydney Swans. Is anyone there? Are you still with us in season 2024? You were absolute world beaters not that long ago. All-Australian contenders everywhere. Brownlow medal contenders everywhere. And all of a sudden, you are shell-shocked. Yes, injuries. You're missing Tom Papley. You're missing Dane Rampy. You may even be missing Lewis Malikan. But fair income, beaten up by Port Adelaide in what was the most humbling performance you could ever imagine. We haven't seen a bigger dismantling of any team across the season. Forget about the team sitting atop the AFL ladder. We haven't seen even teams down the bottom cop it that badly. So I'm not sure what to make of the Sydney Swans. I'm really not sure what to make of the Swans. They were beaten by 33 in contested possession. Not in the game, not in the half, in the first quarter. In the first quarter, if you don't mind. Minus 33 in a game is a bashing. Minus 33 and a half is almost unheard of. In a single quarter, well, get the record books out. It's unbelievable. And I'm not sure which path John Longmire would take with his team. Because if that was a single event, you say, well, we were that bad. We don't even really need to review that game. Let's just sweep it under the rug. We'll give you a pass. We'll pretend like it didn't happen and we'll move along. But the problem is Sydney have now lost 5 of 6. And that loss to Port Adelaide was on the back of being belted wire to wire at home by the Dogs. So you expected a big comeback or a big return to form, return to maximum effort from the Swans after getting belted by the Western Bulldogs. We got a worse performance, considerably so. So I'm not sure what to do if you're a Sydney Swans fan. If you're John Longmire, do you throw it around? Do you throw the magnets around? Does Logan McDonald stay down back or go down back? Do you go smaller in the front half? Do you toss some of these midfielders who aren't performing out onto wings and forward flanks? Do you give other guys a go? They certainly need Callum Mills, who's a few games back into the mix now, to stand tall. He's the captain. He's missed a lot of the season. We know why. The Swans need him more than ever. They need him more than ever. I'm not sure where they go from here. It could get worse. But I tell you what, they needed to get better because I'm not sure we've ever seen a team look so dominant and fall so quickly and so far in the space of a month and a half of footy. So the Swans, well, it's up to you guys to get it done. It's up to you guys to go and get it done. You haven't lost your ability. You've lost something. You've lost a few soldiers, not enough soldiers to mean you get beaten in Adelaide by the Power by 100+ points. But anyhow, that's where they are and that's where they live and that's what they've got to deal with. That's the ugly from the weekend. The good was hidden away on a Sunday afternoon in the twilight zone under the roof at Docklands, and it was the Brisbane Lions. It most definitely wasn't the Saints, but it was the Brisbane Lions. They held the Saints to 1 goal in the first half, 5 goals overall, and they just went on their merry way. They completely owned the game defensively, offensively, around the contest, in the air, on the ground. It was one-way traffic. And when I have a look at the Brisbane Lions, who are the Premiership favourites all of a sudden, I want to think back to their grand final squad versus the squad they put out there in round 21. So in the grand final, those that played that day that didn't play in round 21, Darcy Gardner, medium-sized defender who could play on talls and smalls. McKenna, who has played a fair bit this season, but not in the team on form at the moment. Kadeen Coleman, we know they lost to an ACL injury early in the season. Eric Hipwood was a laid out. who I believe wasn't even in Melbourne, so I'm not sure how late and out he was. Devon Robertson's playing in the VFL. Lincoln McCarthy, we know, has torn an ACL. And Jared Lyons was the sub in the grand final. So into the current 23, or at least from last weekend, Jackson Pryor played, and he played okay. Logan Morris, Ty Lohman, Will Ashcroft, Shadow Brain, Bruce Reville, and Big Henry Smith. Now, Ashcroft's work speaks for itself. He's a young star. I love what Kai Lohman has been able to bring to the table. He's taken Lincoln McCarthy's spot in the team, and he goes about it in a similar-ish fashion. He can jump up and take a specky. He can get after it at ground level, but he's got unbridled enthusiasm. Absolutely unbridled enthusiasm. He brings a lot to the team. Lanky Logan Morris. He can take a catch. He can play on talls and smalls. Well, they need to play on him because he's a lot taller than he seems. He's got long arms. A couple of his goals on the weekend were on the back of fabulous recovery after he'd been up for a mark and down for a ground ball. I love what Brain and Revel can bring to the team. Bruce Revel was the sub on the weekend, got straight into the game. And Brain's a nice kick-off halfback who complements Dane Zorko. And Henry Smith's got a big-time future. So the Lions, to me, to my eye, are not quite as potent or dominant as last season, probably not as mercurial, but I think they're better because I think they're more versatile. I think these young guys have added so much energy and enthusiasm to the group. They're more well-rounded, and they're certainly ready to go for it all. They almost won it all last year. They've overcome plenty of adversity, injuries, and form woes. They were 2-5 after 8 weeks of footy and written off. 9 on the spin, they've won. 9 on the spin. Cam Rayner has totally exploded into a superstar. Joe Danaher is back in form. His productivity is high. Lachie Neale might be on his way to a third Brownlow medal. And I think Harris Andrews has been better than all of them. I think he's been their best player. I hope they can go on and win the thing. I wanted them to win it last year. I picked them to win it this year. I more than wavered. But I tell you what, right here, right now, they are as hot as it gets, and they are certainly the number 1 seed in the AFL. I want to double down on a couple of things from the Greater Western Sydney Giants. I spoke about it over the past couple of weeks, whether it's on this show or on radio. Brent Daniels is definitely the most underrated player in the game. And I guess if we talk about him enough, he'll no longer be underrated. His last quarter in Canberra was huge. 12 disposals, kicked a goal, set a couple up. They've just got to have him around the ball more often. I understand they tag with Toby Bedford. They also have Tom Green in there a lot. And they've got other good players they want to play around the ball. Finn Callahan, Lockie Ash goes around there at different stages. They're going to try and bring a couple of their veteran stars back into the mix. But Daniels needs to be around the ball. He doesn't have to start as a midfielder, but they've certainly got to bring him up to stoppage as a high half forward. Let him flash through a contest. Let him slash through a forward half stoppage and get involved because he is so dangerous. He makes great decisions. He barely ever fumbles, and he's incredibly selfless. He brings other players into the game. 2 guys he brings into the game. One is your current Coleman medal leader, Jesse Hogan, who's airborne. He's been the best performed tall forward in the competition this season as far as I'm concerned. And the skipper, Toby Green, he's got rolling. He has got himself rolling. He was always going to. He was always going to get going. Green and Hogan as a pair are flying. So I had a look at some of their numbers over the past handful of weeks. So their disposals and their goals as a combination. They have not combined for less than 5 goals since round 15. That's 6 weeks now. At least 5 goals or more between them, which is a bloody good return. So these are their disposals and goals in their past 5. 34-8, 27-7, 24-6, 27-8, 27-7. So you have a look at that, a little bit of quick math. 8 and 7's 15. 6 is 21, 8 is 29, 7 is 36. 36 goals between them from their past 5. They're not two big towering forwards. It's one big towering key position forward and one medium-sized forward who can beat you in every single conceivable way. Those two guys might do some damage in September. We haven't seen key forwards do a lot of damage in September. Jesse Hogan feels like one who can, and we know Toby Green is a big-time player in big-time games. I want to talk to you if you're someone who does a ladder predictor. Save your time. Save your time, energy, and effort, because I'm telling you, you'll spend 20 minutes on a ladder predictor, maybe longer, and the second or third game in, you'll get it wrong, because that's just the season we have in front of us. A couple of quick other hitters before we move along, and the Olympics are on, so I'm locked in. Jeremy Cameron of Geelong. Now, Jeremy can roam, but Jeremy needs to remain inside forward 50, or at least play as a forward for 99% of Geelong games. With Tomahawk absent and the rest of the forward line young and emerging, Cameron is the one who can take them forward. I'm not convinced Geelong are rounded enough or good enough through the midfield to go on a run and win a premiership, but they might finish top 4. And I'm convinced Jeremy Cameron, who, yes, is a tall forward, but plays the game unlike most other tall forwards, he can go on a run. He can be the one who could kick a heap of goals in a September campaign and give them an opportunity. He's the one who can get it done. He picked up his goals, all 6 of them, last weekend against the Crows in every conceivable way. He left Nick Murray with his tongue hanging out. He couldn't keep up with him. Shannon Neal's improving. Cameron can get up and back and sideways, in behind, ducking up, ground balls, handball receives, stoppage goals, whatever it may be, Cameron can get it done. 17 disposals on the weekend, 9 score involvements, took 3 marks inside 50, but importantly, kicked 6 goals. He can be a low possession guy, providing he's getting 5, 6, 7 shots at goal for the Cats. If he's doing that, the Cats have a chance. The mob that Geelong beat, my old mob, both of my old mobs, in fact, Adelaide, they've got themselves a Darcy Fogarty-sized problem. I've spoke about this on radio earlier in the week, but Fogarty, I think, needs some space to get the job done, or at least find out for himself and for the club whether he can be the main man, the number 1 banana. Because when Tex is in the lineup, Taylor Walker, for whatever reason, Darcy Fogarty's performance declines just a little bit. They're similar sizes. They're not identical players, and that's the easiest, quote, fingernail deep analysis that some can do, because they're a similar size, similar weight. They can both bang the footy from downtown. But Walker's got much greater natural endurance. I reckon he reads the game a little bit better as well, and he's more adept at bringing others into the game with his hands. Fogarty's a good kick on both sides of his body, no doubt about it. He's not as good a field kick as Tex, but they do play similarly. But the problem is with Fogarty, he needs to be the target inside forward 50. He's more of an old school, undersized full forward who wants to lead at the ball with short, sharp leads. He's got a bit more power and a bit more presence. But the reality is Tex and Fogarty are not necessarily coexisting at the moment. The last 8 times Fogarty has played alongside Tex Walker, some of those games they've had a third tall forward. In one of those games, they had 4 tall forwards, which was madness. But in the last 8 games Tex and Fogarty have played together, Fogarty averages 10.75 disposals and just 1.6 goals. In the past few without Tex, Fogarty's numbers go up to 13 disposals per game. So only a couple of disposals more, but he kicks 3 goals per game. Almost double. So the output's there. And you've got to imagine that that's partly due to opportunity. So Walker's not there inside forward 50 to have the ball kicked to him. Those balls, say if Walker gets 5 or 6 inside 50 targets per week, maybe 3 of those are going to Fogarty. So he gets increased opportunity. But I think it's a mindset situation as well. So Walker's not there. So Fogarty thinks to himself, well, I have to be at every contest. I have to be our long target down the line. I have to get inside forward 50 and give us a target. Maybe when Walker's playing and big Riley Tilthorpe, he's thinking to himself, well, one of those guys will be there to compete. I don't necessarily have to get there. I'll float down the line and maybe get to the second contest. So it's an interesting conundrum for the Crows. It's one that looks quite obvious to me. Tex Walker deserves to play on. He's playing well enough to play on, and the team probably plays better with him in it. But long term, I think Adelaide need to find out whether Fogarty and Thilthorpe can be the long-term A and B, the long-term 1-2 punch that the Crows need them to be. They're both first-round picks. Thilthorpe's a number 2 overall pick, whilst Darcy Fogarty was picked 12 way back when. So there's a lot invested in them, and the Crows probably need to find out sooner rather than later whether they can make it as a combo. Now, finally, the question no one seems to know the answer to, just who is the All-Australian Ruckman? I've nailed the candidates down, or I've drilled down on the candidates and some of their key metrics. Now, believe it or not, I've left hitouts out of the statistical data that I've collected and collated because they all get a heap of hitouts. And for the most part, hitouts mean next to nothing, even for these big boys. Now, Oscar McInerney, Darcy Cameron, Kieran Briggs, Lloyd Meek, Tristan Sherry, Rowan Marshall, and Max Gawn. When it comes to disposals, Marshall's the best at 20.3 per game. Gawn's right there at 19. Cherry at 17, and then you drop off to Briggs and Cameron in the 15s, Meek in the 14s, and McInerney at 12.8. When it comes to clearances, it's Cherry and Briggs who lead the way. So Kieran Briggs is 6.6 clearances per game. Cherry 6.1. McInerney 5.5. Marshall's a bit better than 5.5 as well. When it comes to marks, now this is stark. Marshall's the best at 5.6. Big Max takes 5.3 per game. Cameron takes 4.4. Very good getting behind the ball and taking intercept marks. But then you drop way down to Cherry, Meek, Briggs and McInerney, who take very, very few marks around the ground. From a goal-kicking perspective, something that's a bonus for Ruckman. Not crucial, but a bonus. Gawn's got 11 and Marshall has 10. Now, I don't know I've solved much with those numbers. I think it adds to the fact that it's very, very even. And maybe if one of those guys was in a team that was right up the top, which Oscar McInerney is, but I don't think he's the All-Australian Ruckman this season, maybe it would be a bit easier. And I think I'm coming back to the old firm. I've been with Brodie Grundy all season long, but his form and his club's form has dropped right away. And there's always a recency bias with this stuff. What have you done for me lately? Not did you dominate in the first 10 rounds. What did you do in the last 6 rounds? That's what counts for the most, I think, when it comes to the All-Australian. And I think it's probably between Gawn and Marshall. So they're ranked 1 and 2 in these between all Ruckman for disposals. They both rank quite highly for clearances. They both rank very, very highly for marks. And they've kicked the most goals, or the first and second most goals, 21 between them, 11 for Gawn and 10 for Marshall. So right here, right now, if I'm picking the squad of 44, Gawn's in, Marshall's in. And with 3 games to go and fight it out for yourselves. So after all that, I'm no closer. Anyway, time to wrap it up because round 22 is on the way. From a 7AFL socials perspective, I had a look at my old mate, Mitch McGovern. The situation every boy and every girl dreams of, whatever the sport is, it might be the game-winning three-pointer. It might be in the rink on the ice. Might be the penalty shootout. It might be the penalty spot kick in soccer. But in the AFL, it's the shot from downtown, but after the siren to win the game for your team. Mitch McGovern kicked it accurately in 2017 to get the Crows, our Crows, my Crows, a draw against the Pies at the MCG, down the punt road end. But on this occasion, at the MCG, down the punt road end against Collingwood, he was unable to repeat the dose. And the question I've asked on the 7AFL socials is, who is the player in the AFL that you'd most want the ball in the hands of? Who do you think would be best placed to take a kick from downtown, from about 50 metres out after the siren to win the game? Who do you want taking the kick for your team, or who do you want taking the kick from another team? That's the question I've asked. Make sure you leave a comment on here or on the socials. Thanks for tuning in. Only 3 weeks to go before we start to get stuck right into the finals. Buckle up. Don't you dare tune out, because I'm telling you now, there's more drama just around the corner. My name's JJ. This has been The Field, and thanks for watching.